I hate Disney. Okay, well, maybe that's an overstatement. There are things that I don't like about Disney. A lot of people complain about it. That's what we're going to talk about today. Obviously, we love Disney because this is the Mouse and Men podcast where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. We got a list. We're going to go over it. Chris, this is one of the few ones that I said, you know what? I may want to talk about this beforehand just to make sure I'm not too ridiculous, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't normally talk about this stuff beforehand, but today we did just a little bit.
Well, we wanted to make sure, again, this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek look at it. You know, sometimes we talk about this a lot on Plussing or the creator spotlight that we do here for the Mouse and Men. We watch a lot of content from other creators because we just love hearing what other people say about Disney. But you can't help every now and then, if you're on a YouTube or listening through different podcasts and stuff, sometimes you come across a video from a hater that's just going to bash on it. And so there was a lot of that we talked about recently with like the Black Widow lawsuits and this Genie Plus service and all this kind of stuff. There are things that people have issues with Disney. And Disney's not a perfect company, even though it's a company that I love to be a fan of. And so we thought, we'll just take a glance at it and see if there's anything that we can find that we would like for Disney to do differently. And we found a few things.
Yeah. So we are going to dive into things we hate, maybe just don't like about Disney today on the Mouse and Men. Number one, let's go with something pretty obvious. It's expensive. It is not.
Yeah.
It is not cheap to go to Disney. And when you're thinking, okay, I got to pay all this money for a hotel, and then I have to pay to get into the parks, and then I got to pay for food, and then I got to pay for this new Genie something or other.
Yeah.
And then I got to pay for souvenirs and gifts and stuff. Yeah. If you want to do all of that, it gets expensive.
Yeah.
And especially if you've got bigger families.
Yeah. And part of this is my mindset too. I have fallen in love with types of vacations that are all inclusive because I love the idea that I put my credit card down at the beginning of the trip and I really don't have to pull it out again until I'm finished with that trip. And there are certain experiences that come close to that Disney does offer. But it does feel like that more and more these days, even than it was a couple of years ago, I'm pulling out my credit card or I'm charging it for more things, for more services than I used to. So there definitely does seem to be a trend of, and again, this is Disney. This is Disney World. This is Disneyland. I love going to these places, so I'm willing to pay for it. But sometimes I do feel like I am being asked to pay for things over and over and over. It's like my credit card gets hot. Just run out of plastic all the time.
Yeah. I have had a credit card that broke right at that, magnetic seam, magnetic strip, because it just got bent, and it was for all little purchases. Cause not everybody knows I ain't made of money. But hey, dollar here, dollar there. Yeah. It can feel like Disney's nickel and diming you. They've added, we've talked about the Genie service recently. There are paid tiers to that. You now have to pay to park on property unless you're staying at the campgrounds at Fort Wilderness. I think this is just a COVID thing, but I know some people who built a lightsaber recently at Galaxy's Edge. And they didn't want to carry it around all day. They made it in the morning. They didn't want to carry it all around all day. So they take it to the front of the park, ask them to deliver it to their hotel room. Because that's something that Disney offers.
Yeah.
And it was a $20 fee.
Oh, they charge for that now. I didn't know.
Well, and what I heard is it's just temporary because they don't have enough workers. And so they got to try to figure out stuff. I don't know. But somebody else also said, the Hollywood Studios parking lot's not that big. You can just walk it to your car. And they said that's exactly what I ended up doing. It's like, okay, charging for that, all these little fees that pop up. It's like buying a ticket on Ticketmaster or something. It's a $20
Yes.
ticket, and you walk out of there paying $50 a ticket. I'm exaggerating, but sometimes that's what it feels like.
Yeah. And again, I'm completely okay in this world that we find ourselves in a not a post-COVID world, but like in a world where COVID is just a thing.
Yeah.
That like we all lived through 2020. We saw how devastating it was on economies and individuals with finances and stuff like that. So I know that Disney, a place that makes so much of their money off of people coming into the parks and utilizing that, when they had to shut everything down across the world, that's a huge hit. And so if we are paying a little bit more in the short term to try to help Disney make up for some COVID losses or whatever, I want to continue to contribute and put my part in, because I love what I get back from Disney. The entertainment and the vacations and all of the memories. I love all that, and I'm fine with paying for it. But what I typically see is organizations or corporations like that tend to maybe start charging for stuff, but then people get used to it. And then they don't necessarily take those fees and charges and that nickel and diming away. So if they do, awesome. If they don't, it's going to be a bit sad that I don't feel like that things like the Disney's Magical Express from the airport to the to Walt Disney World, those types of things. What you're saying now, paying for parking and all these upcharges or surcharges, it's a bummer if they don't all eventually go away. But it is what it is.
Yeah, Magical Express is a great point. It was a bus service that Disney contracted out, and you fly in. I think we've talked about this before. You fly in, they get your checked bags and get them to the hotel. So you don't even have to wait for that. You walk off the plane and straight to the bus. The bus drops you off at your resort. You can check in. If your room's not ready, they can hold any carry-on luggage that you brought with you, and you can go straight to the parks. That's going away at the end of the year, and you'll just kind of be on your own for now. But yeah, there are a lot of little things. It's like, oh, I didn't think about this, and it can add up. So some of this stuff you can think about ahead of time. Like instead of getting souvenirs in the parks, buying them beforehand.
Smart.
And parents, you surprise your kids every day with something, or in the middle of the trip, or something, however you want to do it. It's a lot cheaper on Amazon than it is in the parks sometimes. Meals, if they're not doing dining plans right now, a lot of these especially quick service places where you just walk up, it's like fast food. Two adults can split a meal, or you can order from the kids menu. You can do that sort of stuff and save a few bucks over the course of a week. It'll add up. But I know it's a pain to get that bill at the end of the trip and say, shoo-wee, that's a lot. And one of the things that makes it expensive is being down in Florida. Unless you live in Florida where you can just, drive over for the afternoon or something.
Yeah.
You're paying to drive X number of hours. You may have to stay in a hotel on your way down and your way back. Paying for flights. It gets expensive, especially when you're looking at 4, 5, 6 people in a family, maybe more.
Oh, heck yeah.
Maybe a big family reunion. Look out. But just being far away from wherever you are just makes it more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, these are absolutely, whether it's Disneyland over on the West Coast or Walt Disney World on the East Coast down in Florida, there are certainly destinations that most people flock to. It just feels like that one of those, it's an Americana kind of vacation that you have to try at least once. But it's far. Again, even growing up in Alabama, only one state away from Florida, it was about an 8-hour drive. And to a small kid getting excited about going to Disney World, it could have been 3 days in the car is what it felt like to travel down there, even though it was 8 hours or so. And now being in the Nashville area, it takes about 12 hours, but still it's a full day. And again, if you need to take a break or take a rest, that's a hotel room and that's a lot of gas and stuff. So again, these are places that I want to go visit, and I understand why they didn't have a location in Missouri or wherever they were planning on doing it, or the American Experience up in the Washington D.C. area, if I remember that correctly. I get why they would not have these places. There's not a Disney World in every state, kind of thing, and that makes a lot of sense. But sometimes it is expensive, and it takes a long time and planning to actually get there. So that's one of those things that I wouldn't change because I love where the locations are, but it's located far away from most people in the country. So there is a bit of a distance to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. So that can just add to the price of the trip as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's, that kind of deals with the price of a vacation there. Then just the company at large. I feel like when the Walt Disney Company was younger, for instance, they took a big risk creating Snow White, the first feature-length animated film. They've been doing little shorts before that that would play before feature films in theaters. They've been doing other little stuff, and then they decided to do Snow White, and then they decided to do Snow White in color. Meaning they had to scrap a lot of work and go back and do it in color.
Imagine, yeah.
And I mean, these were huge risks. Now I feel like, when they bought Pixar, it was a risk to buy a company, but also you had seen what kind of movies Pixar had helped you create.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as big of a risk. You go and buy Marvel, and that, you'd seen Spider-Man do well in theaters.
Yeah.
You knew you were buying the rights to all these characters that people loved. It's kind of a niche market thing with comic books, but you knew that it worked. You knew these stories worked. So sometimes I feel like Disney's taking a little bit of the easy way out in some of these things. They bought Star Wars. They knew Star Wars was immensely successful. I don't know. Sometimes I want to see a little bit more innovation, a little more risk, but I also know when you get to be that big, you're opening new parks, or you have opened new parks in Paris. Paris almost failed. Shanghai, what is it? Disneyland, Tokyo Sea. You've got these different locations. Each one of those is always a big risk because you're taking something that works in the American culture and trying to put it in French culture, Asian culture. Oof. That is a big risk. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but
no. I mean, I feel like there was a large part of, was it maybe the Imagineering story, or maybe the show where it shows how they created certain attractions behind the attraction. Of talking about how difficult it is to take something that is, at least when they first started expanding internationally, that it was something that was so American that they tried to just like place this new American thing right in the middle of Paris or in France or whatever. And they didn't accept it because they wanted their culture to be represented Disney in a Disney way. And so the interplay and that balance is a difficult thing to do. I absolutely see how, why they're having to try to figure out ways to take these existing intellectual properties and make them something that can not just speak to a small portion of the world, but the world at large now, because they're such a big global company. And I love that they are taking chances to do some of that stuff. But sometimes I do feel like when you have to make a movie for everyone on the planet, how big of a chance can you really take when you have to appeal to everybody? That old saying of like, if you try to please everyone, you'll please no one sort of thing. And that's not the case. I'm a huge fan. I love what Disney puts out for the most part, but I do agree that there are some chances that I wish that they could have taken bigger risks, and maybe they would have had a bigger reward. But you're right. When you're trying to steer a canoe, you can do it with just a row or an oar. But if you're trying to move an entire cruise ship, it takes a lot more power to turn that thing around. And Disney's a cruise ship of a company these days, and so it makes sense. Sometimes I get frustrated around the same area when they announce something like at a D23 or something, and I get so excited for this new feature, this new attraction, this new movie, and then I hear a little bit less about it and a little bit less, or I just don't hear anything else about it at all. And it just kind of drifts away into the ether. And I'm like, no, I really wanted that Mary Poppins part of the UK pavilion. I wanted to go through that. And so for those types of things to kind of drift away, it's just sad, because I get all pumped up when they announce things like this. And then when they don't come to fruition, I'm just bummed because I got my hopes up.
Yeah. And I was starting to get a little bit worried about that with Splash Mountain, because they announced, hey, we're going to do a new overlay with Princess and the Frog. And then we didn't hear anything for a long time. And then they announced, hey, here's more of the idea behind it, and no regular updates. Hey, we're still working on it, that sort of thing. Because one of the things that they say about Disney World, Disneyland, because it's always changing, there are rides that get shut down, something else replaces it. That ride that you shut down was somebody's favorite ride.
It's true. Yeah.
But then the property that you're bringing in is somebody's favorite property. And so you're always going to be making some people mad. You're always going to be making some people happy. It is a hard balancing act. And so when things like a Mary Poppins attraction in the UK pavilion at Epcot gets announced, all these people who love Mary Poppins want to see more Mary Poppins in the parks. Yes, we're so excited. And then just crickets. And then when people start asking about it, hey, it's, we're having to pause the development of that. And then we're kind of just all sitting around twiddling our thumbs, waiting for that to develop. And they just kind of let it disappear and hope that it goes away. It's not fun when you're really excited about something.
Yeah, that's true. And again, I don't know why this Mary Poppins thing keeps popping back up into our heads, but we've talked about this a lot. And again, it's not like Mary Poppins is my favorite intellectual property from all of the Disney brands that are out there, but I have a soft spot in my heart for it. And so when I heard that they were going to turn part of the UK pavilion into Cherry Tree Lane, it just yes, that is a perfect place. Like, again, in one of our reimagineering episodes, it sounds like something that we would absolutely turn the UK pavilion. It already looks like Cherry Tree Lane, just put a couple of different things in places, and there it's already Mary Poppins overlaid right there. And so I got all excited about it because I love the UK pavilion, but I would love it even more if it had that kind of experience and that kind of festive atmosphere and all the things that Mary Poppins brings. And so to hear it or to not hear about it anymore, and knowing that usually means that Disney's kind of brushing something under the rug, it's just sad.
Yeah. I don't know. Now I'm all thinking about Mary Poppins, wishing that it was here. But something else that kind of bugs me about Disney is you get when you check in, you can get these buttons. We've got them. We went to Disney on our honeymoon, so we're celebrating. Button, wore those around. We've been for my wife's birthday, so she's wearing, it's my birthday pin. And when you go on vacation, sometimes you want to relax. And I know Disney's not the most relaxing vacation, but you're just going there to have fun with the people you're with. And then you're wearing these pins. And then cast members start to say happy birthday. And then other guests start saying happy birthday, happy anniversary, congratulations on getting married, congratulations on whatever. And then sometimes you're standing in the queue for an attraction. You've got the birthday pin, and the whole group of people, complete strangers, just start singing happy birthday to you. It's like, look, I just wanted a vacation in peace. That's all I want to do. I just want to come to Disney World, tune everything else out, and just spend a little time with my significant other, with my family, just us, small group, have a good time. And now everybody else is getting in on the party.
Yes.
Just let me vacation in peace, please.
Just let, man, I know. Dealing with humanity is one of those things that you have to do if you're going to vacation at Walt Disney World or Disneyland. But sometimes that the happiest place on earth for everybody else, they're all singing happy birthday and that made their day. But you're like, this is the 14th time I've heard this today. Would you please stop? I absolutely could see that, man. Sometimes it is a bit of like, well, you just got to go with the flow when you're dealing with so many people, so many diverse backgrounds and stuff. And that's amazing. But then there's some that you come up against, like, I'm not familiar with this. I wouldn't let my kids do this inside the parks, or I wouldn't let my adults do this inside the parks, kind of thing. That you're dealing with humanity all the time. You're going to come into contact, especially those hot, humid summer days, and it's just packed together, and we're all feel like sardines, and we're not really walking. We're just kind of shuffling because of how crowded it is. Yeah. It's difficult sometimes because it's such a popular place and such a beloved place to go and visit and vacation. There's going to be a lot of people there. So you're going to have a lot of people trying to sing happy birthday to you if you wear your pin.
Yeah, it is very crowded. And, when I was real little, I think it was before the first time that I went, it was before school started, before I was in school. Then my brother is 7 years younger. So when it came his time to experience Disney World, I think we did have to go in the summer, and it was really crowded. Been on spring break a couple times, pretty crowded then as well. And then, when people are singing happy birthday, it was for my wife's birthday, which is first week of May, which is great because it's before any schools get out for the summer, but it's after spring break. So there's kind of a lull. Chris, we've looked at that week, and it's really low as far as attendance in the parks. And then you and your family were going just a few weeks later, and it was, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 10 for busiest weeks at the parks. And so my birthday being in August, although now schools start, seems like August 1st.
True.
Maybe I can go and celebrate a birthday, but it's very crowded, a lot of different people. You get, even before the pandemic, there's some cultures that just don't, I'm not gonna say don't respect, but they don't have the same concept of personal space. In PE class, you put your arms out. It's like, okay, if you can't touch anybody, you've got enough personal space. Yeah. No, it's not like that. And so sometimes you're in line. It's like, what in the world? What is, am I about to, I'm surrounded. Is this going to be a flash mob or something?
Yeah. When you're at Disney, you take on the role of like, I'm a citizen of Disney today. And we are all brothers and sisters here because we are all going to be breathing the same air and standing in the same lines. And, again, depending on what time of year you go, you're going to have interesting smells that happen just because, like, I mean, my son's standing next to me and he's the main contributor of it all. So just all that fun stuff that you have when you're dealing with a lot of people during the summertime, all squished together in Central Florida.
Yeah. And then, you get people who it may be 25, 30, 40 people on a family reunion. And and look, this doesn't bother me. But I know some people are like, oh, they don't want to wear it, but it's, the bright orange, bright green shirt. Mm-hmm. And it, it says family reunion, grandma and grandpa's, 60th wedding
40th
anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something like that. Look, I've got a ridiculous shirt that I've worn in the parks once or twice. It says my favorite Disney princess is my wife.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh, that's cute. Although my wife's like, I don't want to be a princess. I want to be queen. I'm like, okay, there you go. So yeah, look, you're gonna have people wearing goofy stuff, and I don't mean Goofy the character. Just
sure.
kind of ridiculous stuff. But that's kind of the fun of it. And
Oh, absolutely.
Like you said, when you've got those crowds, you get a little bit of everything, and you're gonna have some of that. So
You know what I mainly think of when I think of those huge groups and they're all wearing the same neon shirt when they're coming towards you? My thought, and this is another thing that we didn't really discuss, but definitely as far as being in the parks and dealing with all the crowds, is trying to plan out your moves of how you're going to get through all these crowds to get to the Pirates of the Caribbean. And you're over here next to Casey's Hot Dogs, and you've got to get over there. And the whole time, it's like me and my 3 family members that are with me, we all have our own mission of just trying to weave through traffic in order to not run into somebody or a big group like that's coming, and they don't want to all separate from each other. So then you have to kind of walk around them and stuff. So the whole maneuvering of yourself within the parks is its own thing, which, going back to the idea that you had of going in off-peak times throughout the year, and again, oftentimes in the last 10 years, we've been at the mercy of when the kids are not in school or in school kind of thing. And so that's like going to Disney in a low attendance day is such a heaven on earth moment that when you then have to go back to a normal time when it's busy, like when everybody else is there, it feels that much worse because you know what it can be when a third or half of those people aren't in the parks with you.
yeah. And on that, go when it's raining. When it's raining, go to the parks. Where I like chacos. So if you can wear those all day, I know sometimes those straps, they can kind of dig into your foot skin, but but chacos or Tevas, flip-flops aren't great, but something like that, a good raincoat, or if it's warm enough, just screw the raincoat. Just have a waterproof bag where you can keep your phone and your wallet and that kind of stuff. And go have a big time, because one of the best days my wife and I have had in the Magic Kingdom was on a rainy day. And I mean, it looked empty. It felt empty. You walk great on rides. So those are a few things that, we're not big fans of at Disney, or maybe some of you are not fans of. It's expensive. It's crowded. They do things that you don't agree with, and you kind of just have to live with it. I mean, who's going to tell Disney no, don't take out Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? I don't know. They did it. So
yeah,
let us know what you don't like about Disney. We'll see if we can.
It's hard to even say.
Yeah,
because we like so much about Disney, but it's often those little things that I've realized, though, if I can go to a vacation at Disney and just accept the fact that it is going to be expensive, then it hurts a little less when I have to pay for something else. When I go down to Disney and I think it's going to be crowded, then it's a little easier for me to take.
Yeah.
And so it's like going in with accurate or as close to accurate expectations as possible is a really nice thing, because then you are less disappointed because you're expecting all of these things to be part of your experience when you go on a vacation. So that's my advice that I try to keep in my own head of just like, this is what a Disney vacation is. It's supposed to be crowded. It's going to be expensive, but let's go have some fun anyway.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of wrap that up. It was almost painful to say things I hate about Disney. But let's get on to this week's segment of plussing. So we've talked about Disney. We've talked about a lot of things we don't like about Disney, but I will challenge you. Go to a different theme park. Go to a different theme park and see if it feels the same.
So well said.
Do you get the same level of care from the cast members? Mm-hmm. Does it feel the same? Do you get, the Disney does so many things well, and that's part of the reason why it's expensive. They hire the best people. They train them really well. They really spend time designing things so that when you're in Tomorrowland, you can't see Adventureland. When you feel immersed in this stuff. Go try when it opens this new Star Wars hotel where you walk in and you are living a Star Wars story. Yeah. Some of this stuff you just cannot find anywhere else. Not to this level. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the crowds. I think it's worth not getting everything I want. It's good for me.
Yeah, sure.
And it's worth the price of admission. I do think it's worth it. And that's why I keep going back. And so many people do. That's why so many people keep going back.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, Chris, you cheated on Disney. You went down to Universal. So go spend a couple days at Universal. Go, there's Cedar Point in Ohio.
All the Six Flags around the country. Yeah.
Six Flags, I think the Jersey Shore still has stuff kind of up there. Disney actually thought about doing stuff up there. And at one time you talked about the stuff in DC area. Go try something else and then report back. Let us know how it stacks up.
That is such a smart plussing, because when you start comparing it to other places, sure, you may be able to go find a vacation for cheaper. Sure, you may be able to go to an amusement park without forking over the kind of cash that you would when you go to Disney. But when you add it all up, the experience of Disney is why Disney has been so successful, because they care about their customers and they care about creating opportunities for us all to enjoy. And sometimes it feels like at those other places that I am amused at these amusement parks, I am entertained at these entertainment complexes, but not to the level that Disney has really indoctrinated me to experience or to expect when I go to a place like that. So Disney, 100 times over. Again, even a couple months ago when my family and I went to Universal for our family vacation, we did it partly because our family had never been, and also to compare how is this compared to Disney? And there's a lot of great things about Universal, but it reinforced our love for Disney, which made us that much more excited about going back soon. So try it all out, but to realize that Disney is the king for a reason.
Yep. And there's some things I don't like, but I still love Disney. And that's why you don't want to grow up too fast.
And I completely agree with you. There are things that I don't like, but I love Disney. So I got to keep exploring, and I hope that you